Hi everyone, and welcome to my video on postnatal core rehab exercises. My name is Yasmin Say and I'm a pre and postnatal personal trainer and Pilates instructor based in West London. Before we get started, please remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel Say Fitness Personal Training. Now, the exercises I will be demonstrating today are really great and gentle Pilates-based core rehab exercises that you can introduce very early on after you have given birth. Because these exercises are rooted in Pilates, Pilates is actually proven to be one of the most effective ways of training in the early stages of the postnatal period. The reason for this is because it helps you reconnect with your breathing and therefore your core. Now, depending on the type of birth you experienced, you may be working with a few different issues of your physical recovery during the postnatal period. One of these issues might be diastasis recti, which is the thinning and stretching of the linea alba, which is the connective tissue that sews together the rectus abdominis muscles, so your six-pack muscles at the front. Now, diastasis recti is usually diagnosed by a women's health physio, but it can also sometimes be diagnosed by your doctor, your physician, or for example, your obstetrician or your gynecologist. Now, diastasis recti is measured and diagnosed by a width of a 2-finger gap of the abdominals or wider. It is important to remember that some women will experience diastasis recti for many years to come post-birth. And every woman's recovery is going to be different. I will be giving you the tools as we go through the exercises to make sure that you are noticing any changes in the activation of your abdominals as we do the exercises. And that mainly the main thing is to look for any doming or coning of the abdominals as we work through those exercises. But it's very, very important to remember that if you are experiencing issues with diastasis recti, that you are not broken, and just because you have that 2-finger or more gap in the abdominals, that you cannot do and cannot progress to a lot of those more advanced core exercises eventually. You may be experiencing some pelvic floor dysfunction and weakness like stress incontinence. You might be experiencing a bit of muscle atrophy in the body. And remember, a lot of these other issues that in your physical recovery might be exacerbated by lack of sleep, which is very common in early motherhood, of course. So what can we do to help reconnect with our core and also work on our maybe slightly more dysfunctional breathing patterns? Well, everything that I'll be demonstrating today will help restore that abdominal activation that we need to help strengthen the abdominal wall. Now, although these exercises I'm demonstrating are of course deemed very safe to do, my best advice in the early postnatal period is to visit a women's health physiotherapist. They can check on the pelvic health of your body and making sure that the conditions I mentioned previously, so everything from pelvic floor dysfunction to diastasis recti, are diagnosed more effectively and properly before you start exercise. Of course, you can also wait until the 8-week or 12-week checkup with your general practitioner if you are unsure as to whether to start exercise or not. But even exercises as simple as breath work and pelvic floor work can be super effective to start as immediately as after you have given birth. So what equipment do we need today for your exercises? I recommend something comfortable to sit on for our breathing practice at the start. You can also help the breathing a little bit more effectively by using a flex band, and I'll show you how to use that in a moment. So a long resistance band or a Pilates flex band. And additionally, just because I want you to feel and connect with your abdominals a little bit more and really understand what to look for in terms of abdominal activation, I would recommend wearing either just a sports bra or a slightly tighter top so that you can see your abdominals at work. Okay, let's get started with the first exercise, the most fundamental principle of Pilates, which is your breathing. Now, you might be thinking, how does breathing make any difference to my physical recovery? Well, it makes all the difference, mainly because your breathing works in synergy with your core, particularly your pelvic floor muscles. So we're going to reconnect with our breath. Of course, during pregnancy, your breathing probably felt a little bit restricted, especially towards the end of your pregnancy, mainly because you are making room for baby, and a lot of the time probably your sleep is affected, and therefore your breathing and your breathing patterns even during the day are affected. So how do we reconnect with the breath? I like to use the band here and place it like a corset, tightening it around my rib cage. Fairly tight, but not too restrictive, of course. And then I can just relax my arms down by my sides, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. If you don't have a flex band, you can corset your rib cage like this, but just make sure you're not holding any extra tension through your shoulders. Sitting nice and tall. So I'm sitting on a Pilates block here. You could be sitting on a cushion. Make sure that the pelvis is slightly tilted forward, just so you're not rounding and sitting in a very uncomfortable, restrictive position here. So thinking nice and tall through the spine, crown of head reaching up towards the ceiling. You can close your eyes or keep them open. I will leave that to you as long as you're feeling nicely relaxed. I want you to take a nice big inhale through the nose. And just exhale it all out through the mouth. Let's do another cleansing breath. Inhale. And then exhale. I want you to connect a little bit more with the Pilates way of breathing. So we inhale through the nose. And we exhale through pursed lips, like you're blowing through a straw. So you can feel a slight resistance on that exhale. So inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Now let's focus on the inhale a little bit more. I want you to expand through your rib cage, front, back, and side. Hence why we have the flex band wrapped around our rib cage here. So inhaling, exhaling. And as we inhale, trying to move away from that very stressed out way of breathing, which in our Western society, we're very used to hunching the shoulders, breathing in from the chest, that very sort of almost labored breathing from the chest. So as you inhale, feel that expansion, round 360-degree breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. We want to get used to working that diaphragm muscle again. As you exhale, and notice if you can access a little bit more breath to the back of the body. 60% of our lung capacity is found in the back of the body. So the more that we can really venture into the back of the lungs here. Breathing in, expand through the rib cage. As you exhale, start to connect with your pelvic floor. How do we do that? We close off the back passage of the pelvic floor, like you're stopping yourself from passing wind. Inhale, release the pelvic floor muscles. Exhale, engage, drawing in and up. It's almost like you're pulling up a little blueberry through the back passage of your pelvic floor. Inhale, release it. And again, it's one of those things, breathing doesn't come completely naturally to everyone. It does take a little bit of practice. So the more that you can focus on also relaxing those muscles as well as engaging them is super important. Inhale and then exhale. I want you to hold this next one up. So continue breathing, but keep squeezing in and up, holding in those pelvic floor muscles, drawing in and up to about a level 2. Breathing, breathing. Keep squeezing and lifting, keep squeezing and lifting. And inhale, release it fully. Well done. Next time, you're going to take an inhale. As you exhale, I want you to squeeze in and up, and then inhale, release. So we're going to fire up those pelvic floor muscles a little bit quicker now, sort of more fast twitch muscle fibers. Exhale, squeeze and lift. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and lift. Inhale, release. Exhale, squeeze and lift. And you're going to carry on another 5 times here. Inhale, release. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. 2 more times. Inhale. Last one. Squeeze and lift and release. So your homework with your breathing and your pelvic floor exercises, which is a nice way of hitting both of those target areas together, is to do 10 10-second holds of your pelvic floor, making sure you release after each one. And then 10 short, sharp bursts. So squeezing and then releasing, squeezing and releasing. If you can manage to do those 2 sets once a day, then great. If you can manage to do both of those exercises 3 times a day, even better. Anything is better than nothing, and these are perfectly fine to do even when you're still in hospital after giving birth. As soon as you can get on strengthening your pelvic floor muscles, you will be doing your body a huge favor. Let's move on to exercise 2, which is pelvic tilts. We're going to roll down to the mat for this one. And make sure that your feet are hip width apart and your heels are close to your bottom. Relaxing the arms down by the sides, and just make sure that you're sitting and lying comfortably here. So from your pelvis feeling quite heavy on the mat to the lower ribs just knitting gently inside of the body so you're not flaring the rib cage up towards the ceiling. And then make sure you lift the head up off the floor, give it a little shake and place the back of the head on the ground. So you're looking directly up towards the ceiling, so your head and neck are in neutral. Now place your fingertips on your hip bones, those bony prominences on the front of the hips. Now we've understood and established our breathing, we can use our breathing to help with a lot of the exercises we're doing today. So pelvic tilts. What I want you to do first of all is, as you inhale, tilt your pelvis forward. You will notice an arch to your lower back as you do this. As you exhale, I want you to engage your pelvic floor muscles, draw belly button into lower spine, and draw your spine into imprint. So your lower back now is pressed against the floor. So as you inhale, tilting forward. As you exhale, engage your core as you draw your lower back to the floor. And just repeat, going at your own pace, inhaling and then exhaling. And after you've done a few reps of these, I want you to start noticing if you are just engaging those glute muscles a little bit too much. We want to switch off the glutes to do that posterior tilt and rather just connect with our pelvic floor and our core here. So just make sure, even if it means you have to reduce the range of movement slightly, inhaling, tilt forward, exhaling, draw belly button into lower spine, engage back passage of pelvic floor, and then inhale, release. So this is a nice way of now engaging with the rest of your core muscles by doing a very gentle pelvic tilt movement. And I'd say this is more effective to do lying down on your back than it is doing it from standing, because you have the floor and the mat to work with here. So you can feel the movement a little bit more. And the key thing here is you can do as many reps as feels comfortable. This is a nice and gentle exercise here, not too taxing on the body, and again helps you reconnect with your breathing. Now, one other way you can do this is by placing the hands like a little diamond shape down onto your pelvis here. And if you wanted to take a little look down, you could inhale, and then as you exhale, you can see your hands, your thumbs moving up, and then your index fingers moving up. Inhale, and then exhale. Inhale, and then exhale. Relaxing down, you can still feel the movement here as you tilt forward and you tilt back. Release back to neutral, and your neutral pelvis is somewhere in between those two movements with a little gap, little pocket of air underneath the lower back, where you wouldn't be able to slide your hand all the way through to the other side. Releasing there, and then arms down by your side. Exercise 3 are your leg slides. So having established our neutral pelvis and our neutral spine in the last exercise, we're going to move on to leg slides now. So again, rolling down onto your back, and then making sure you come back into that neutral position. So if you have to do a few pelvic tilts here, find halfway between the two. And I give you a tip here. Imagine, so to maintain your neutral, imagine strings have been attached to your lower ribs and your hip bones. So I'm using my fingers here to connect my hips to my ribs. And they're attached by these very, very thin strings here. If I lose my neutral, I'd probably flare my rib cage or arch my back, and those strings are going to snap. So if it helps me with the next exercise, I can keep my fingers in that position to make sure I'm maintaining that abdominal connection. From your neutral, you inhale as you slide the right leg out long. As you exhale, you externally rotate and draw that leg in and back to center. Inhale as I slide the left leg out. Exhale, draw the knee out, using my abdominals as I bring it back in. And you continue. I'll give you a few little cues here to help. It might be a little bit strange just using your own body weight to try and create some resistance. So if I gave you the analogy of imagining you're dragging your legs through really thick mud, or if it helps, different analogy, really thick sticky syrup or honey. Now you're creating a little bit of resistance to go super slow and really allow the abdominals to control the movement back to center. What you're trying to do is one leg moves, the other leg stays absolutely still. There's no rocking or rolling through the pelvis, and the abdominals are doing their job. So I'm keeping that abdominal connection, feeling with my fingers that my pelvis is not tilting forwards or backwards. The next exercise are tabletop lifts. So we're starting to progressively load the body now, working with slightly more difficult exercises for the core. So I have deliberately demonstrated these exercises so far in a specific order. So we're back down on our back. And two very important points here are the pelvic positioning of your body. So depending on where you are with your core rehab, you might be very comfortable doing this exercise in neutral. However, if you still are feeling a bit of abdominal weakness and you're still very early on and you are working with a few issues, I would recommend doing this exercise in imprint. So we already know from the previous exercises how to come into imprint. So for the sake of just demonstrating tabletop lifts, as you exhale, you're going to draw your pelvis into imprint, arms down by your side. You feel that abdominal connection, you take an inhale. As you exhale, you lift your right leg to tabletop, knee stacked over the hip, ankle in line with the knee. You take an inhale here, and then you exhale, release to the floor. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, use your abdominals to draw the left leg up to tabletop. See how I hinged from the hip here. Inhale, and then exhale, releasing down. I'm doing these exercises all whilst maintaining imprint. If you were doing these in neutral, you would be maintaining neutral pelvis and doing the same thing. So I would say, starting off, you would do these in imprint. Otherwise, option 2, you would come straight into neutral and do these from neutral. Play around with 8 to 10 reps of these exercises, and then we move on to the next progression. So wherever you are at, neutral or imprint, you're going to inhale one leg up to tabletop, exhale, use the other leg Inhale, lower down one leg. Exhale, lower down. Then you start with the left leg. Inhale, one leg. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And feel free to use any of the cues that I used in the previous exercises. So if it helped you to create those strings connecting hips to ribs, then feel free to do that. If it helps you, bringing those arms down to the floor, use that. Inhale and then exhale. Again, play with around 8 to 10 reps of those exercises. If you are ready for the next stage, we're doing our toe taps. So from our pelvic positioning established already, inhale, exhale, up. Arms can be down, option 1. If you are ready for it, arms can be up, but I would say that is slightly more advanced if you are still in your early stages of core rehab. From here, taking an inhale, rib cage pulls in. Exhale, toe tap right foot down, inhale up. Exhale, toe tap left. I want you to imagine I have placed a knee brace on both of those knees, preventing the shape of your legs from changing. You are hinging from the hips. Another very important point to add here is you don't have to tap your foot all the way to the ground. So if you notice, as soon as you tap down, your back arches, we need to just maybe reduce the range of movement and maybe go halfway. So maybe this is where you're at today. Keep connecting with the breath. Always come back to the breath. Go at the pace of your breathing. When you have done, again, 8 to 10 reps, inhale one leg, exhale the other leg safely down to the mat. The next exercise is a popular one. I'm sure you will have come across it before. It's going to be dead bugs or bird dogs. Now I'm going to show bird dog first because I would say this would be the first modification of the exercise you do, and then you can progress to the more advanced modification, which is the dead bug lying down on your back. So we're going to come onto all fours here, shoulders stacked over your wrists, hips are over the knees. Now we are still in a plank position here. So we want to make sure that we feel strong. We're not sort of collapsing into the shoulders here. We're pressing the ground away. Imagine also that my hand is behind your head. So you're pressing the back of the head towards the hand. It can make all the difference to strengthening your neck muscles. Often when we're in the 4-point kneeling, we just sort of hang our head down. So the more you can really feel strong and active throughout the entire body doing this exercise, the better. So engaging my core, I'm in a nice neutral position. My hip points here are pointing backwards, crown of the head reaching forwards. Maintaining that position, engaging our core on the exhale. As you exhale, right arm, left leg extends. Now hold it here. I want you to feel that back leg super strong, engaging that left glute, reaching that right arm forwards, and your gaze is looking towards the top of the mat. You're pressing the ground away through that left hand. Taking an inhale, and then as you exhale, release down. Inhale, exhale, left arm, right leg. If you want to have a feel here, making sure that your belly is not just dropping to the floor and engaged, you can have a feel of the abdominals. Are they working? Is there a little bit of tension there? Inhale, exhale, release down. You want to progress the bird dog? Take this next option. As you exhale, right arm, left leg. So nice and strong here and pressing through the left shoulder. Inhale, exhale, knee to elbow. Inhale, extend. Exhale, knee to elbow. Nice and steady, avoiding any wobbling from side to side. Nice fluid movement. I would go for 5 reps on each side and then releasing down before you continue on the other side. So lots of lovely variations you can do with bird dog, but that's how I would approach that exercise at the start. If you want to take it further, we move into dead bug. So lying down on your back again. We know how to bring the legs to tabletop now, so establishing your neutral or your imprint. Inhale one leg, exhale other leg, arms up to the ceiling. Rib cage pulls in. Taking an inhale, as you exhale, right arm, left leg extends. Inhale back in. Exhale. Inhale back in. Now, because you are working with longer levers now, extending away from your midline, you might notice that something is compromised here in your positioning. Are those strings starting to snap? If they are, it's a very simple modification. You don't lower the arm and leg so far to the ground. So now I'm slightly more in control of my abdominal activation here by not focusing too much on just bringing the leg and the arm down to the floor. I don't need to be at that stage yet. I can just work with this range of movement. Again, 8 to 10 reps of these. And then when you're done, arms down, inhale, exhale, release to the floor. The next exercise is ab prep. This is a very traditional Pilates exercise. It's one of the first in the Pilates repertoire and a really, really good way of progressing into, for example, sit-ups or abdominal crunches, if that's what you like to do. But it's a really good exercise to do it very cautiously, very carefully, and understand what you are looking for in the patterns of the movement. So we're coming back down to the mat again, finding neutral spine here. So the feet are hip width apart, ribs connected to those hips, got a little pocket of air there. And my head is in neutral here. So I'm looking directly up to the ceiling, arms down by your sides, but I will give you an option if you get or feel any neck strain. You inhale, you gently tuck the chin towards the chest without jamming it. Exhale, flex your spine off the mat. Now stay here. You have the perfect vantage point of your abdominals here. You can see what's going on. Is there any doming, any coning, any pattern of movement like that happening here? Lift up a little bit more if you can't feel your abdominals at work, taking an inhale, and then exhale, release down to the mat. And again, inhale, tuck the chin towards the chest. Exhale, use your abdominals to flex the spine off the mat. Pelvic floor engaged here. Inhaling, and then exhaling, release down. If you want to, and you're feeling that neck strain happening, you can cradle the hands behind the head here, one hand and then the other hand on top. You inhale, tuck the chin, elbows wide. Exhale, flex the spine off the mat, looking between the knees. Inhale, and then exhale, releasing down. The key thing to remember, guys, as you try and do a few more reps here, is if you do see slight abdominal doming or coning, that is not a problem. It's more excessive doming and coning that really feels uncomfortable, and you can see that it doesn't look or feel right, and perhaps that abdominal connection hasn't quite been made. That's where I would either avoid this exercise right now or reduce your range of movement. Releasing down. Remember, when you come up, inhale, exhale, sliding the ribs towards the hips. Try and avoid tilting the pelvis in order to come up a little bit higher. Progressions will always come in any of these core exercises. Inhaling and then exhale, release. The final exercise is my own invention. It is called the peeling plank. Now, of course, the plank is very common in Pilates and it's one of the strongest exercises in the core repertoire. So how do we actually make our planks super effective and super strong? And you might be tempted to get straight back into planks very soon after giving birth because it is one of the most common core exercises to do. I will always maintain, though, that the plank is a full body exercise. So it is requiring quite a lot of endurance in the body, quite a lot of muscular endurance as well. So with my peeling plank method, it helps teach you all the muscles that need to be activated to hold a strong plank, whether you want to hold it for 10 seconds or 10 minutes, if that's your jam. So let's come into the position and then I will talk you through it. It's a way of progressively loading the body to come into eventually the full plank. So we come down onto our forearms. into this Sphinx position. So my forearms are down, my hands are flat. In fact, the only thing activated in my body is pressing down through my forearms and activating through my shoulders. My belly is very floppy onto the mat here. My glutes are not engaged at all, and my legs are also relaxed. I'm turning my gaze to looking just in between my fingertips towards the end of the mat. Now, just listen to my instructions as we all go through this exercise together. So, first of all, your belly button is going to lift off the mat. So keep those shoulders and those forearms engaged and just peel your belly button off the mat, nothing else. So when you hear instructors say, for example, drawing belly button to spine, this is essentially what you're doing right now. Next, I want you to peel your hip bones off the mat. So this is starting to engage those glutes a little bit more. You might feel that little tremble of doom here. So we're slowly peeling into the 3/4 plank. So as you come and peel off your thighs, raising your hips in line with your shoulders, that already should feel the hardest part of this exercise. Keep engaging the glutes. If you're ready, you can stay where you are here on your knees. If you're ready to though, tuck your toes under, engage the legs, push the heels back, and you are in the plank position. Hold here for 10 seconds, breathe through it, and don't lose that activation through the body. For 3, 2, 1, knees down, and sit back into a child's pose. So think about how that felt. As we slowly loaded the body into that movement, it probably changed how you felt the plank. A lot of the time, we just throw ourselves into the plank, and that's how we develop bad movement patterns or bad technique. For example, coming into the high plank, we'd end up dropping the hips, or we end up coming into more of a downward dog position. So the peeling plank, which we will do again in a second, the peeling plank really allows us to connect with our core, focus on our breathing, really think about the whole body as one unit as we form that strong plank position. So one more time, down onto our forearms, press the ground away. Where is your gaze looking? Press the hands into the floor and then pull the belly button off on its own. Breathe. Next, the hip bones. Just a little lift of those front hip bones. Starting to engage the glutes here as we peel the thighs off the mat, coming onto our knees. Remember, you can absolutely stay here. Maybe hold it for 30 seconds this time. Otherwise, if you're ready, tuck the toes under, push the heels back, engage the legs, engage the glutes, and hold. Keep reaching, crown of the head forward, heels back for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release down and sink back into your child's pose. Very well done. And you can repeat that exercise, obviously building it up to the full low plank there. And of course, you can increase your hold time as well. I really hope you enjoyed my video today, and I'd really appreciate it if you like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Say Fitness Personal Training. See you on the mat again soon.